All right, you know what it is. This is the Big Douglas Show. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. It is a Monday, and Big Pooh is with us today. Fella, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Warming up.
And
Warming
from
up from the chilly
NBC,
weekend.
it was very cold out, although up there a little further north in DC, I think they got snowed on, so at least we didn't get that. From NBC Sports Washington, Chris Miller is with us. Chris, thanks for doing this.
What up, guys? How y'all doing?
Doing well.
Yes, indeed.
You have stayed behind for the cold weather yourself.
Yeah, I'd have took a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'd have took 5 days in LA. I definitely would have took that after that snow hit us a little bit. But glad to be with you guys. I'm in the comfort of my own home, so it's good to be with you guys today.
Pooh, when the Wiz play Golden State tonight, it'll be Steph Curry's birthday. You want to venture a guess on how old Steph is?
I think Steph is 35, 4.
34.
Yeah, I knew it was around that.
Good job. Good job.
Yeah.
There you go. There you go. But if you look at him for the first time, he looked like he still should be carded.
Right, right.
Out there playing like a toddler out there, his mouthpiece out his mouth and just skipping around. I mean, he got to be like the youngest 34-year-old ever.
Ever.
They're out there west. You called the game on Saturday, Chris. How do you like calling the games?
Love it. Normally I react before a game and after a game, but there's something to describing action in real time that's really exciting, right? Because you just don't know what will happen. Case in point, Saturday, if I would have told you guys Josh Hart would drop 44, you would have had me drug tested, right? You'd have been like, there's no way in hell he's going to do that. But that's the beauty of like a live game as it's happening, is you're seeing it kind of unfold. And while I'm happy for Josh, he's a DMV kid. We always root for our kids here in the area. I mean, he did do it against the Wizards, so it was kind of like, I'm happy for him, but damn, he's doing it against Washington. So I love calling games. It's really fun, especially when you're doing it with somebody that you like. Jason Smith is a good friend of mine off the screen. I've done a couple games this year with Drew Gooden, who's like one of my best friends. So yeah, it's fun calling games as it's happening.
Nice. Chris, I have to ask you, this year I've probably seen you at your most frustrated with this team. And we all know this isn't the only year this team has been frustrating. So like what has caused so much, frustration with this team this year?
That's a great question. I think in the beginning of the year, I was just so excited about the start. First game of the year, they're on the road. They hold Toronto to 83 points. That's the best. I remember that night I said on the air, that was some championship level defense. And this is my 15th season covering this team. I don't think I've ever seen them guard the way they guarded opening night. And it was just so exciting to see that. And that's kind of like been the one thing that's kind of always been missing from this Wizards team, guys. We've never, ever, ever said, the Wizards don't score enough. We've always seen high scoring Wizards teams. So from a defensive standpoint, just to see how they started the year, they had me at hello. I was so like into the defense. And when they started 10-3, the offense wasn't there, but they were winning games late. They were making stops and getting shots when they needed it. So, man, those first 13 games, they had me at hello. I mean, I was so excited about it because it was different. And through the course of the year, you have ebbs and flows in the 82-game season. I just have not liked the defensive disposition and how it's declined so much this year, and especially here lately. There's been late game mishaps defensively, but really these last 3 games out west, I don't see the commitment there. And it's not just me saying it, it's the coach saying effort. The players are saying effort. So there seems to be an issue. Where my frustration has kind of been this year is I know what it looked like when it was good. You know what I mean? It's like a good relationship. Like when that relationship was real good and, y'all both whispering sweet nothings to each other's ear and it was good and the music come on, it was good. The food was good, just hanging out. here lately, it's just not been fun. And I remember going on the air saying after the first Clippers game when they blew that 35-point lead, I thought that was rock bottom. I said it on the air. I said I think this is rock bottom. They've hit rock bottom as a team this year, and obviously they made some trades. And then just here lately again, giving up 50 to LeBron, you shouldn't be embarrassed by that. It just happens. He's a generational great player.
LeBron.
He Bron, right? He the king. But to give up 44 to Josh Hart just 24 hours after that happened, that's disappointing.
Absolutely.
And you mentioned it's frustrating, right? Because if we do the relationship analogy, I mean, that's what we were looking for in our new lady, right? Was somebody that brought some defense. And that's all, who and I begged for more shooting and some defense. We got the defense, and we saw it. I don't understand when players say, we know we're not giving enough. Like that doesn't – I don't understand where that comes from. Like, how can you be cognizant of the fact you need to play better defense and just can't get there? What is it that we're missing?
Doug, that's a good point. It's like when there's a problem and you identify the problem.
Right. I got to lose some weight. I got to stop eating so much,
Right. You and me both, brother. Sometimes that food just tastes good.
Sometimes it tastes good.
We know there's a problem, but until we fix the problem, then it's just going to continuously be there. But the thing that I've noticed this year is sometimes I don't even have to say it. Like the players and the coaches say it for me. So when I go on a post-game show and I say X, Y, and Z happened, I'll sometimes refer, don't take my word for it. Here's what the coach and the players are saying. And they're saying the same things. And some of the things that they've said this year in public, where they would probably not do that, they're saying it this year. And that's why I'm just like, what's going on here? But when it was good, it was really good. Like, I thought that this was a special group early on. The way that they were nobody was really caring about who was getting shots. I mean, everybody was kind of just blending in, doing their thing. And then all of a sudden, it was almost like they woke up one day and they were like, well, I'm not getting enough shots. I'm not getting this. I don't ever hear a team say, man, I'm just not getting enough stops down there. I got to get me about 3-4 more stops. I don't ever hear that. Right. I hear I'm not getting enough shots. And until that narrative changes or that mindset changes on teams, you're going to continuously have nights like they've had out here on this West Coast trip. It's really been unfortunate not to get a win out West. I thought a successful trip, guys, would have been 2-2. I thought they could have got the Portland game, and I thought they would have stole one of those LA games. And they haven't done either one.
Yeah, I thought they had a chance at 3-1, actually.
What were the 3 wins? What did you think? You thought they was going to get both LA games and
both
Portland?
LA games and Portland. I watch all the LA games. I'm just a sucker for that story that's going on out there in LA with the Lakers. That is,
and that's a story.
I'm a sucker for that story.
But a Hollywood story.
I thought they had a chance. I was a little iffy on the Laker game because Bron always shows up for the Wizards for some strange reason. He just holds an internal grudge against the Wizards. But do you think? I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this. I don't want to get you.
Just say it, brother. What's on your mind? Just speak your mind.
Do you think part of the Wizards this year is Wes maybe needing an assistant that was a former head coach? Because I know there's been questions about his rotations. He kind of sticks to, for the most part, sticks to his card or whatever have you. Do you think that's something he may think about this offseason?
I mean, I think that's a fair question. You have to think about it too. Wes was, I think, the last head coach hired during this most recent hiring cycle, right? So if the head coach is one of the last ones to be hired, a lot of the assistant coaches were already gone, or some of the people that he probably wanted. So, I mean, he at the 11th hour, he had to put a staff together. And I'm not saying this staff is bad. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is, when you have to kind of rush to get some people on your staff, is that your A team that you wanted around you? So, I get the rotation thing. We heard that a lot about like Scott Brooks. We heard that about Randy Whitman. We heard that about Flip Saunders. I don't know if we really heard that much about Eddie Jordan, but I think every Wizards coach fans have talked about kind of like their rotation and being kind of married to, their scheme. But at some point, gentlemen, we have to look at the 5 people that are out there on the floor, or the 3 that's coming off the bench, or 4 that's coming off the bench, and hold them to a higher standard and hold them probably more accountable, because Wes ain't out there blowing defensive assignments. Wes is not out there not talking on defensive rotations. You notice the theme there is I'm talking defense. I'm not talking offense, because, again, like I said, that's never really been an issue with this team.
Absolutely.
Were there any guys at the trade deadline that were untradeable from this Wizards team? Do you know?
Bradley Beal, because clearly he didn't go anywhere. I think everybody else was probably available. And the moves that they made sense.
Had you heard rumblings about Porzingis, or did that surprise you?
That came out of nowhere for me.
Right.
It really came out. Now I know that there was. I don't even know how to describe like Porzingis' relationship with Luka, but clearly they weren't losing sleep over it. So, but to get a guy like Porzingis, he's very unique. I've said that. I've never really seen a player like that up close. With his size, his ability to shoot, he can block some shots. So I do think that the Wizards got the better player, but it is interesting to see how Spencer Dinwiddie is flourishing in Dallas.
That's what I was going to ask you.
I have a theory on that, and my theory is, I never really thought Spencer was a pure point guard. Spencer is a combo guard. Spencer can score, he can facilitate if he has to, but his nature is to put the ball in the basket, and he's coming off the bench. So I feel like he is in a much better suited role for his skill set in Dallas. And plus, he's not the man down there. We know who the man is down there. It's Luka the Don. And I think Spencer is playing well off of Luka, hence the reason he's had some big nights offensively. I think it was a better move for Spencer to play down in Dallas than here, because here there clearly was a disconnect between when Brad played and when Brad didn't play, because when Brad didn't play, Spencer put up some numbers. But then when Brad came out there was some reason why they couldn't put this thing together. So I do believe Spencer's in a better place down there, because what they're asking him to do, I think, fits his skill set.
Do you see that as a problem with a lot of when these NBA players go, try to recruit players to their teams? We're seeing it in LA with Westbrook not fitting with LeBron. I mean, I think we all figured that might be a little junky, but not this junky. But do you see that as a problem when players they recruit players to their team and not really concern themselves, or I don't want to say concern themselves, not really think about the fit of who they're bringing in with themselves and other members on the team?
That's a great question. I have a philosophy: players play, coaches coach, GMs GM, owners own. Right? Mm-hmm. There's a reason why there's kind of like that hierarchy. But I don't have a problem with players kind of recruiting other players, because everybody's doing it. The problem is it looks good when you're in the summer and you're courting, right? You're courting your best friend, or you guys have the same agent and you're trying to think about this pairing up. But are you doing your due diligence in terms of how your skill set fits that player? Because it's cool to get some run in the summer and y'all playing well in the summer. It's another thing when you got to play 82 games with this guy and his bad habits kind of reflect in December. You go, oh man, I didn't know he was like that. Or I didn't know I had to, oh shoot, he ain't passing the ball, or he's not doing this. So I think that there has to be this balance between understanding that just because a guy plays really well somewhere else doesn't always mean he's going to fit at his new address. Mm-hmm. That makes sense. Like it's
perfect sense.
James Harden to me is kind of like the perfect, poster guy for that, right? His skills are very individualized. Like he's a bucket, top of the key, give me the ball, boom, 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 boom. Well, it didn't work in Brooklyn. It didn't work with Chris Paul. Now he's in Philly with Embiid. Is that going to work? Does his skill set work there? So you have to be cognizant of pairing up, because if you don't do your homework, it might not work out. As you said, the example of kind of like the Lakers, Russ coming home, that has not worked out
at all. At all.
At all.
At all.
Chris, how hard did they push for Sabonis? Did that ever get close, do you think?
Yeah, I think it did get close. I mean, obviously, I know Brad was a big fan of his game, but I think at the end of the day, probably the ticket price was a little high, probably a little too steep, too rich for their blood, right? They probably didn't want to give up a lot of future assets for him. And then I think if you Sabonis is good, don't get me wrong, but does he really like move the needle? Does he get you there, wherever there is? I think he's really good. I like him, but I don't know if he's. I mean, if you told me Sabonis or Porzingis, the only thing with Porzingis that concerns me is his availability. But
Right.
when he's out there, he's pretty damn good.
Take away availability. I mean, he's the better player, right?
Yeah, I would agree with you.
Not necessarily all that close. I mean, if
Porzingis does
stays healthy, I mean, he's freaky, right?
Yeah, and he does a lot of things defensively in terms of shot blocking that I don't think Sabonis does. And then again, like you said, like his shooting and what I did notice in the 3 games with Sabonis that he's played so far is, that first game where he came out, we were all like, whoa, he's rebounding, he can score, he can, when he shoots, if you guys notice this, no matter who's guarding him, it's basically him versus the rim. Like he's looking at the rim. There's no contest. There's no hand that's been put in his face, because when he rises, he reminds me of KD in that way, where when KD rises and fires, there's nobody that can put their hand in his face. It's like normally their hand is like touching his elbow. So he's got just free release between him and the basket. So I see a lot of that in Porzingis also. But yeah, better player, give me Porzingis over Sabonis.
Yeah. Chris, what do you think about these was it last week? I believe it hit the internet. John Wall wouldn't be he would welcome a return home. Obviously we know it wouldn't be in trade, but what do you think of those rumors that hit the internet the past week or so?
I thought it was interesting. Like the more you kind of think about it, take a broad look at it. I mean, the Wizards have a hole at point guard. They've got. I like their secondary playmakers. I like their backup point guards. You guys know I love Ish Smith. I like Neto. I think Neto is more of a scoring guard than point. Like he can get to the rim and stuff like that. But to have like a starting point guard, 32-minute, get everybody involved, push a little pace in the game. Yeah, that's John Wall, man. But a lot has to happen.
Oh yeah,
it's great conversation.
Oh yeah,
right. There's still kind of just some hurt feelings on both sides. But from a business standpoint, if John took a buyout, I would just only ask this question: who's better than him out in the open market?
I'm pretty sure it'd be nobody.
Who's better than him coming out in this draft? And who's better than him in free agency at that price? Again, if there could be agreed upon buyout, the Wizards pick up the rest of whatever that buyout number is. I just asked the question. If you look at it from a business standpoint, I don't think you find a better player at that price than a 5-time All-Star. Oh, by the way, that's motivated and has had to sit at home and watch this season go by. And as we all know, he used to find the littlest things to get him motivated. I don't think there's a bigger motivation. But again, there's a lot of work that would have to be done. A lot of people, let's just say there had to be some conversations over there to try to even think about the prospects of that.
And I won't ask you to speak for him, but I'm assuming one of those conversations is with Brad. I mean, how did that relationship end? Is it even feasible? Because what we are seeing, right, is that Brad's voice in the organization is loud. So would it be something that Brad would even entertain?
I think there has to be a conversation between those two. I think that there's kind of like levels of the conversations, right? It kind of starts with them, and then it just keeps going up until ultimately Ted would probably have to sign off on that. And I don't know if that's the case. I haven't asked, nor do I want to ask. I want to see kind of this thing kind of play out in real time if it's real, if it is real.
Right.
But again, as I said before, if you just kind of look at it, take a step back and look at it from a business standpoint and an on the court standpoint, if the numbers work out, I mean, he'd be the best option you would have on the market.
Absolutely. Do you think part of, if it is true, do you think part of it is maybe him looking, I know he didn't really want to leave, but originally, but do you look at it as part of like, I got over here and what I had was actually very good. Like I thought something may be a little better, but that was actually very good. Like,
I think I think as we get older, we kind of realize things that we might have had was pretty good when we had it. And the more you think, I think that goes for both sides.
Right.
I don't want to speak for him, but I do know the man, and I do know that he loves basketball, and he kind of needs basketball, right? It was kind of taken away from him in a weird way. Pay him that much money not to be around the team. That's weird to me. I don't know about you two guys, but when I heard it the first time, I was like, wait, they don't want you to play, but they go, that's weird. And then there was no trade at the trade deadline. So I do know that he misses the game, and his passion for the game, there's very few guys that do what he does on the floor. And we all remember kind of like the 8 years that last year, I don't count, but like he played hurt his whole time here in DC. He was never healthy. I think 1 year he was healthy, I think was the 16-17 season when they won 49 games. I think that was Scott Brooks' first year. That was really the only time he was healthy. You just look at the totality of the numbers that he put up in his resume to do that on one leg.
Right. Right.
There's been more.
Y'all gonna get me in trouble talking about this stuff, so let me just leave it there. I'm gonna leave it there.
No, it's funny. It made me think back about when John left and everything, because I forgot that maybe Ted was excited about that. But to your point, there's been more rumblings again about Brad to the 76ers. I know that if Joe was here, he was going to tell you that he was very upset about the idea of them throwing the bag at Bradley. But it seems like that's a foregone conclusion, no? So
look, I've heard kind of the chatter really all year, social media, the grocery store.
Not the grocery store.
At the grocery, I get pulled over at the grocery store. Hey man, what's going on with the Wizards? Hey, are they gonna re-sign Brad? I would just say this, man. This organization has made a 10-year commitment to the player. The player has made a 10-year commitment to the organization. What's the alternative? I haven't heard of any. Let's just say this. I have not heard Brad go to them and say, I'm out of here. Now, if I did hear that, then I would say, okay, well, you gotta get him out of here. But let's look at it maybe a different way. Let's say they do re-sign Brad. I think they should go get a player that's better than him. Think about that.
Did they do that in Porzingis?
I don't know if Porzingis is better than Brad. I think he could be, but the availability thing, I don't know. But if they did go get a better player than Brad, now all of a sudden, people won't be looking at the money. I think everyone is associating Brad with this massive contract, and they're not looking at Brad the player. Who is he? I mean, he's been an all-star 3 times, right?
All-star 3 times.
He got jobbed actually twice. He should be a 5-time all-star. Before this season, he was averaging 30 the last 2 years with 2 different point guards. So he played with 2 different players that were responsible for getting him the ball, and he dropped 30. Now, did he have an off year this year? By his own admission, yes. But hey, Every good player has a down year, right? So maybe let's look at it this way. If we didn't associate Brad with this $200+ million contract and just looked at an extension, I don't think people would be losing their mind. But people are losing their mind because they're like, oh my gosh, look how much money that they're up. That's the market. We didn't set the market. He didn't set the market. That's what you pay a Supermax player. Now, if you want to debate back and forth, is he a Supermax player? Then that's fine. We can have that conversation. But he is entitled to make that much money because it has been collectively bargained between the governors and the Players Association. So us going back and forth about the dollar amount, I'm more concerned about how can we put more talent around it.
Absolutely. I've been saying this year, I agree with you. The market sets the price. Like, it's not about what a player deserves or what they're.
Let me put it to you this way. Whatever everybody does at work, whatever you do at work, and there's a market that's set for the value in which you at your skill set does. And people around work are like, man, Doug shouldn't be making this, blah, blah, blah. That's fine. But your skill set and what you do, sure, there's a price and a market for that. I just leave it there.
Yeah.
Nah, absolutely. Absolutely. I always tell people, I say, listen, I understand, you looking at the dollar and like, oh, but, whatever. But you're going to, you want him to go in hopes of finding somebody just as good as him or better.
Yeah, good luck.
Good luck.
Like, because teams don't let go of players like that.
Exactly. Exactly. Like that's my whole argument is like you're hoping to find someone as good as he's been, and that's not an easy feat. It's been good players in Sacramento, and they're 16 years of no postseason play,
and they stay in the lottery, in the lottery. If you want to be a team, if you want to be a fan base that follows a team that is constantly in the lottery, that's your choice. Me, I like the playoffs. I really like the playoffs. Last year, they were in the play-in tournament. They ended up getting to the playoffs and playing Philly, although they got beaten 5 games. I actually liked those 5 games. And that's why I don't subscribe to that T word. And I hate saying it. That's why I call it the T word, where teams like lose on purpose. Like, I don't understand that. I don't get it. To me, first of all, it's never worked. I'm looking forward to somebody kind of telling me where I'll say it. Tanking. Tell me when it's worked.
I also think it sets bad habits for your organization when you start going down that road. What have you thought of Rui's progression this season? I know he was late coming in for personal reasons, but what do you think of his progression once he's got on the court? I know he's not playing the same minutes as previously, and he's not starting, but when he does get in and get going, what has he looked like to you?
To me, I think he's integrated well coming back. The way he's shooting the 3, I'm like, oh, he definitely was in the lab, because that was the talk before he came back about how he's shooting the ball better. It's still a little bit of a line drive. There's a little bit of an arc, but it's going in. And I'm like, look, as long as it goes in, keep doing you. I think he's gotten better. By his own admission, he likes to be in the mid-range more, which is a breath of fresh air, hearing a player actually acknowledge that mid-range shots are good shots as opposed to just painting threes. It's so refreshing to hear, especially a young player. They're like, hey, man, I can get my stuff off in the middle part of the floor. He actually wants to shoot more of those, but he understands that because this game is different now, you have to make threes, and top of the key, corner threes. Corner threes are the easiest threes to make. I think he's gotten better in that department. His confidence is high. And I've noticed like his body language. I made a point to him a couple of days ago, the Brooklyn game before the All-Star break. I think that fourth quarter, he was really good. And he made a shot. Brooklyn called a timeout. He just ran to the bench with such joy, right? Smile on his face, tongue out. And those little things matter. It's something you never see on the stat sheet, right? Hey, he smiled on that jumper. You won't see that. But if you watch the game and you just watch like his body language, he was really, really engaged. And that's the part of the game of basketball that I love to see from these young players, is when their confidence is high and they go out and they have success. those things kind of matter to me. And that's where I've kind of seen his growth here this year. But I want him to keep doing it. And he's got to get better on the defensive end too, as the rest of the whole team. But I like what I've seen from him in his comeback.
It's not a whiz question, Mike, but I'm curious your thoughts. Alexander Wilson in the comments here did bring up Mike Jones, who's down at Tech. His name's been swirling around for some of the college jobs. I was wondering if you talked just a little bit about him and kind of his evolution. And I know he's being talked about for like the Tech job, or not Tech, but Maryland. And
first of all, on a personal note, Mike coached my son at DeMatha. So he was on Mike's last team, the 2020 team that won the WCAC title. So I've known Mike 15 years. Couldn't be happier. I texted him late. Well, that must have been like late Saturday night, early Sunday morning, and just said, "Man, happy for you." You know, they beat my Tar Heels, but they did beat Duke in the championship game. So I was like, "Great job, great job." I think he's ready. I think he's ready for any college job. And you know, when it's your first job, people are like, "Well, can he coach the big programs?" This guy his resume speaks for itself. I mean, he's coached USA basketball. Not only has he coached DeMatha, now he's had a year where I think he's the associate head coach. I think that's his title at Virginia Tech. And just to see what he's able to do really in 1 year to really kind of help that team, recruiting wise, you know, he's getting Rodney Rice, who's a DeMatha kid. He's going down there next year. So the recruiting part of it, I think he's ready. I'm biased. I think he's ready for every job. Maryland, that'd be great. Because guess what? The factory that's down there on Madison Street, we could potentially get in Terp uniforms, which has kind of been a problem over the years. I'm not one to really speak on that, but I think Mike is definitely ready for a head coaching job.
I think he would be someone, you know, that would be perfect in the sense of he could get local kids to stay home. And that's been a big problem at Maryland is local kids staying home. So,
and it's really no excuse. Let me just get on my soapbox real quick. In this area of recruiting, and I'm just going to use the region from Baltimore to Tidewater. If you just look at that region right there, I don't really think you need to even recruit anywhere else. Now, I get it. You want to try to be a national brand. But if you told me you got a kid from Baltimore, a kid from the DMV, and a kid from Tidewater every year, you good. You know what I'm saying? Like
very good. Right.
You're good. You'll compete with anybody in the country. Yeah. And it's such a fruitful recruiting base that there's just really no excuses.
Absolutely.
Let's wrap with this, Mike. Do you have Chris, Mike, sorry.
That's all good.
Do you have a couple of NCAA picks you like? A couple of sleepers before the tournament gets started?
Sleepers?
Yeah.
No, because I haven't really watched college basketball this year the way I normally watch it. Obviously, I want my Heels to do well. I want Duke to lose in the first round.
Talk about going out unceremoniously. Coach K hadn't had any on his way out. I mean, I'm not a Duke fan, but I always feel bad for the guy.
I'll just say
nothing
this.
on the way out.
He's won enough.
Yeah, 94-81. That score will live in my front of my mind for the rest of my life. Right? I tweeted out that night. I said Krzyzewskiville is officially closed. But that's a rivalry since I was a kid. You know, Duke Carolina is like the best rivalry for me just because I've lived it my whole life. I would say this: there's two teams that I did see this year that I'm really intrigued to see. I like Purdue for some reason. And the reason why I watch kids is I don't really see it for the college game. I'm looking at who's going to be up here in the NBA. This Jaden Ivey kid, I think, is really special. And I think Purdue has a lot of size. I like them. I liked Auburn, but they've lost here lately. But the Jabari Smith kid is really, really good. He could be the top pick in the draft. Arizona looks pretty good. I don't know about Gonzaga. Every year I try to put Gonzaga in my bracket. I'm gonna tell you the three teams that always killed me in brackets, and I don't know if this happens for you guys. Arizona always killed me. Gonzaga killed me, and Cincinnati. Yep. Every year I would always see Cincinnati when Huggins was there. When Huggins was there, I'd always put those three teams would always break my heart. So, but I do like Arizona this year. Purdue. And we'll see with Auburn. We'll see.
And your son's playing ball. How did that go for him this year?
This is his second year. So the first year, they only played 9 games because of COVID, but this was his first full year. It went well. Just a young team. They got their head beat in the league because they was playing grown men, but it's a good thing, right? Look, it ain't bad every time you lose, but if you can learn something from it. What did Michael Jordan say? I never lost, I learned. So I thought that this was a really good learning experience for him. Ball was in his hand, every game as a point guard. So we were happy.
Nice. I got to ask you one more question for all my Tar Heel fans. What do you think of the job Hubert Davis did this year, taking over that team?
He beat Duke when it mattered.
That's all that matters.
That's it.
Hey man, he beat him when it mattered, right?
I
thought he did a really good job this year. I mean, listen, that's a pressure cooker, especially when you replace Roy, who won 3 titles, right? Roy replaced, he didn't replace Dean, but Roy came there, had to win the big one. It's hard replacing legends, but I thought he did a really good job. I thought those kids got better as the year went on. I'm excited to see them in the tournament. I'm always excited to see them in the tournament, but they played their best game when it mattered.
When it mattered. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You calling any more games anytime soon?
I think this might be it for this year, but I think I did 8 or 9. I did 8 this year. It was fun. I did Glenn, it was a revolving door on who I was doing the games with, but it was fun. I did Glenn Concert with Drew and with Jason Smith most recently. It was fun.
We love to hear more of you, Chris.
I appreciate you.
Speaking for people that watch the games, we love to hear more.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that.
No problem.
Chris, we appreciate you coming on today, man. Always a good time.
Always. Hey, let me ask y'all. Can I ask y'all a Commanders question real quick?
Sure.
As someone that's just on the outside looking in, what y'all think of the name?
I hate it. I detest it.
Would you have preferred them keep Washington football team?
Yes.
Really?
For me, it's like I knew it was going to be something affiliated with military or something of that sort, but I would have just preferred Washington football team. I was cool letting go of the old name. That was fine, but if it wasn't going to be something that really was cool and resonated, like a name that everybody could get behind, then just leave it as the Washington football team. And, they didn't feel the same way I felt. The uniforms look cool, but the name stinks.
No, I saw those, the letter jackets. Those are dope.
Look awesome.
I mean,
the branding is nice. The W, I think, pops off like when you look at it next to the other logos. The Commanders, I think most people figured if it didn't go Wolves, I've heard most people at this point say it should have just stayed football team. But you know what? They go out there and win 10 games this year, and everybody will be a Commander.
I was literally getting ready to say that. Don't let them win the division. Don't let them win that first game of the playoff. Don't let them get to the NFC Championship game.
Absolutely.
Your behind going to be out there. Commanders. You're going to have a Commanders dance.
It's going to be just like when Abe Poland changed the name from the Bullets to the Wizards. I'd hated that name as well. And now I don't even think about calling them the Bullets anymore. It's the Wizards, so it's the same thing. It has to grow on you, but I still don't like the name. I love the team, don't like the name.
Appreciate you guys having me on, man. Chopping it up as always.
No problem, man. Thank you very much.
Appreciate you.
Got you.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
You too.
All right.